Hi, friends. Okay, impromptu live, this time in soul space. Yesterday I went live randomly on Instagram, and today I've decided to go live here. And it's funny, while I was like, whatever, typing up the captions, it's like I paused for too long about what this live was going to be about. I paused for too long, and then I started to feel like, I don't know, like my focus go and disconnect from the captions. And I was sitting there trying to get it back. And then I was like, just fucking press play and start. Because the longer you sit here, the more and more diffuse it gets. So bear with me. Okay. So yesterday I had this very, very intense experience of, I don't know if you can call it intense. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful experience of anchoring into the 12th dimensional consciousness field. And if you watch my live yesterday, like while I was freshly, newly in it, you can see like the whole difference in my body language and my eye contact, and the way I was holding myself while I was talking was it was interesting for me to watch. It was interesting for me to feel, and then it was interesting for me to watch back and be like, wow, I was like, whew, out there, so to speak. And I kind of expected to come back down to earth today. And I mean, I am on earth. That's the wild thing. But I'm still in the 12th dimensional consciousness field, which is really, really, really beautiful and supports a theory that I have that, when I talk about it, I think the live was posted to YouTube, and I think it's supposed to be posted here. So you can watch it if you want. It's very powerful. There are light language transmissions that come through, but also it was harder than it is today to speak from that field, because the energy there, I mean, I already struggle. I say it all the time. You guys are probably all sick of hearing me say like, English, but the energy there was truly, I don't know, beyond my ability to put into English words. And today I'm at least back down enough that I feel like I can maneuver through the English language again. But anyway, it supports my theory, like me still being here, still being connected to this vantage point in a way that has it alters the way that I exist in my own world, in my own reality. It supports the theory that I have had for a while that the fifth dimension isn't where we're stopping. It's not like we're not ascending to the fifth dimension and then like, it's so hard to talk about these things. And as we're reaching for these new understandings, we put language to it. And the language is helpful, and at the same time, it's restrictive. And so, when we talk about 5D New Earth, there's a perception. I experienced this perception at a time where it's a place that we're going, and like it's a fifth dimensional expression of Earth, and I suppose it is, but it's not just fifth dimensional. It is multi-dimensional experience of Earth. And the fifth dimension is the thing that we're figuring out how to anchor into. We're calibrating to what it means to have fifth dimensional consciousness. But I think a lot of us are already there. I know that I've already passed through that gate. It's like a gate. It's a gateway or a portal. I know I've passed through it because I wouldn't be able to access these higher realms if not. And the fifth dimension, again, to try and articulate it the best way possible, is the union between being in an individuated body with an ego and a perception of self in relationship to all these other fragmented, individuated pieces of like the oversoul consciousness. And so to experience ourselves as separate and as unified at the same time. So what that looks like on a granular, like reality-based day-to-day level is a sensation of, you know, it's, how do I put it? Okay. Like going through your life, going through the motions, experiencing the things that we experience, conflicts with people, misunderstandings, frustration and stress, like outright traumatic experiences, all of that, and like really, really experiencing it and feeling it. And at the same time, knowing, not on a conceptual level, but in the heart, knowing that the others that we're interacting with are us. And the words that I put to it sound so overused, and it feels like they fall short. But it's like when you're, I kind of said this yesterday, I'm trying to condense this in case, you can't get through my spaciness yesterday on the live. I nonetheless feel like it was really valuable information that came through. It's like when you're interacting with somebody who's being an asshole, it's acknowledging that there is this surface layer that we're interacting with, where the person is being an asshole, and we can acknowledge that, and we're not having to bypass it or be like, yes, but, and like, yes, but, and the person's being an asshole. Like they're just being belligerent or dismissive or rude or outright abusive, whatever it is, right? And it's at the same time connecting with them through the heart space so you can feel the incredibly rich, intricate, multifaceted complexity of their consciousness and their being. And you feel all these little unspoken factors, these little strings, these little threads of their being, of their consciousness that are, that weaves the tapestry of who they are. So it's like you're looking at the tapestry of who they are and you're feeling all the threads, and the threads all have a felt experience, an emotional experience. They have an intellectual experience. They have a physical, sensory-based experience. And so it's like when you're connecting with somebody on that level, even when they're presenting as total turds in the moment, it's easy to do with things like animals, plants, babies and children, and elders, people who are dying often, because the thing that all of those beings have in common, hi Chelsea, is that animals and plants generally don't have any walls up. They can be harder to connect to because they're a different kind of consciousness than what we are. So it depends. Like some people are plant people, some people are animal people. But they don't have any walls up. They don't have any guards up. So it's easier to be really present with a plant, really present with an animal, because that being is usually not lashing out at us. It's happy to just be present. But the same is true of babies. Often they cry. William is sick right now. Kieran was sick last week. And of course now William is sick. And so, he cries. He was so belligerent a few days ago because when Kieran was sick, I had to take time off. Like I couldn't keep up with work. So I could mother her. But then I had to make up for work. So I had a couple days where I worked really, really, really hard. And William, like straight up hit me. He was like, I did not come here to be ignored. So babies are still belligerent is what I'm trying to say. But generally speaking, babies and children don't have the same kind of walls up that humans do. And the elderly often don't, sometimes they do, and people who are, preparing, they know that they're going to die and they're preparing for their death, they often don't have walls up. And so it's easier to connect with them. And it's a telepathic communication. But there are different forms of telepathy. There's a mental telepathy where this is actually one of the main functions of the third eye. We use the throat, we misuse the throat in place of the telepathic connection that we're supposed to have. We kind of got it a little bit scrambled up here, but it's fine. It's not a big deal. But actually, the third eye is meant to receive and transmit thought pictures. And so in a different society or whatever, where our shit didn't get all scrambled up by the false matrix, we would chiefly communicate through the projection of thought images and the reception of thought images. And the third eye also functions to generate thought images. And those thought images, we're told that they're just imagination. When we're kids, like, oh, she just has a wild imagination. But actually, our imagination is a portal to higher dimensions where a reality already exists. What you're doing is you're tapping into a timeline, and you're also sculpting it, right? So there are fantastical elements to it, like fantasy elements to it. But you are sensing the energy, and it's translating through your internal vision. Because we don't have that activated the way it's supposed to be, we've started using our throat, which is meant to be used to create sound as a manifestation tool, but we use it for communication. But it's not actually, it's a very clunky form of communication. It's not the most exalted use of our throats. So there's this third eye mental thought telepathy field. And sometimes it doesn't necessarily have to project as images. We can do it from our crown as well, where we're just projecting a knowing. Like my oldest son, Francis, he's very like that. He doesn't actually talk very much. He just looks at you with his big, beautiful brown eyes. And then I just receive, I don't know, we don't have to talk very often. We do talk, but we don't have to. And he's always been like that ever since he was a baby. He was my initiation into telepathy on Earth as a human. But anyway, but there's also a heart telepathy. And that's what I'm talking about in the 5D. And they're all linked. One isn't better than the other. But in the heart space, it's a little bit harder. This is why the 5D is very hard for us. Why, as humans, we make such a big whoop about it, is because it is the thing that is challenging to move into. Because in order to truly move into the heart space and move into that heart telepathy, that heart connection, where you're interacting with someone and they're being a total fucking dick. And yes, it's reasonable to acknowledge that they're being a dick. They're presenting with very aggressive and disrespectful energy. And in your heart, you can connect beyond that projected surface that they're giving you and connect wordlessly into their heart. And you could just cry because you can feel the richness of who they are in that moment. And because we are empathic, and because it's very traumatic to be here on Earth, and we're all, carrying loads and loads and loads of trauma, we're just swimming in frequencies of trauma and toxicity all the time. We, as a matter of survival, those of us who came here to activate the heart portal and heart telepathy, we have put up these walls, we've created heart walls, because it fucking hurts to be here. It hurts. It's so intense. It's so painful. But we can handle it insofar as what am I reaching for to try and explain? We can handle it, and I'm not saying it from you're tough enough, you can take it. We are, but it's sort of when you just let yourself feel what's presented to you in the present moment, in your interactions with people, in your interactions with yourself, and you just let yourself feel it, and you don't resist it, you sort of build up a tolerance for the intensity of being connected in the heart field. And it's not a tolerance from the same respect as like, it's a conscious choice. Okay, so I'm not talking about a tolerance where you become tolerant of trauma, and so you just now, like, trauma becomes your baseline normal. That's not what I mean. I mean that when you choose to soften the armor of defensiveness around your heart and let that information come in, you build up. At first it's so painful, but then you build up a tolerance where you're like, okay, it's uncomfortable and it's not posing a threat to me. Feeling that angry person's heart doesn't actually diminish me, it enhances me. So I don't need this armor up around my heart. I can feel it. I can feel that person. I can feel myself. And like, not only is it like I can feel it, but it enhances me, as I said, to feel it. It gives me more information. Like, this is psychic information. This is how you move through the world in a greater alignment, greater flow, greater synchronicity. More magical things start happening because you're not constantly working at like keeping the world at bay and protecting yourself out of a perception that it's too painful and we can't handle it. And then also what happens is that when you get used to being in the heart space and connecting with people, it's almost like you're talking in two different ways. Like, sometimes we see it depicted in movies where somebody's talking to you with words, and then behind the word talking, behind the surface talking, they're telepathically also talking to a different level of you. And it's like that's what's required of us right now in the world, because not everybody is ready to be opened up in the heart portal in 5D consciousness, right? So you engage with people at the level that they are showing up at, I guess, so say it's just somebody that is kind of toxic in your life, and they're just kind of like an asshole. Like, they call and they just spew vitriol at you and just yell about the world and how you're an idiot and you're out to lunch and whatever, and it doesn't feel good. One part of you is engaging with that because that's how they're showing up. So you have to talk to them like that, and let them be where they are. And then another part of you is wordlessly, silently engaging at the heart level and understanding that that's extremely powerful, and their conscious mind isn't going to pick up on it, but you don't need their conscious mind to pick up on it. You are doing energetic work at the heart level. And we build a tolerance where we're like, this actually isn't that big of a deal. It's not actually that uncomfortable to feel other people's consciousness, because it turns out, we're okay. Like, it's not a threat to us. It enhances us. It only gives us more information to make, more expanded choices based upon. But the cool thing about the fifth dimensional consciousness is that it doesn't stop there at all. It's like, once you have that kind of locked in and integrated into yourself, boom, you just shoot up. The sky's the limit, so to speak. You have access to the sixth dimension of consciousness, which to me is like these geometries I keep talking about. It is the pixelization of the hologram. It is the pre-matter geometric templates that, we kind of like communicate through like it's what, you know, like I was describing on the podcast episode that came out yesterday, we connect with these 6-dimensional pre-matter templates, these geometric structures, the geometry is made of light. It's like, it's just a pattern, it's a blueprint, and we connect with it, and we're like, ooh, that would be great, let's manifest that, and we bring it in, and then we transmit it through our thought waves, our emotion waves, our physical body waves, and then the hologram interacts and feeds it back to you. It's like, oh, okay, these are the instructions. Like, you literally gave me the blueprint, now I rearrange to match this blueprint. You also get immediate access to the 7th dimensional field, which, to simplify it, is like, it is, it's like the cosmic song. It's like cymatics. It is the tone that allows matter to, or allows the light field to take on these geometries. So it's really like the 7th dimension of consciousness is like very much a creator consciousness. You access the 8th dimensional consciousness of the oversoul, the collective, the oversoul great dreaming mind that is dreaming this whole thing up. It's where polarities become completely unified, completely resolved. There is no polarity. Oh my God, all the evil was the same as all the good. It's all the same consciousness. You access the 9th dimensional consciousness, where we just start becoming, like, we start working in like hierarchies, Mandelbrot sets of consciousness, where individuation starts to leave, where we begin working as collectives and creating outside of the dream. You access the 10th dimensional consciousness, the angelic field, the 11th, the Akashic field, the 12th, the Christ consciousness field. You can go up from there to the 13th, the void space. You can go up from there to the 14th, 15th, 16th, sort of like Rishi level consciousness. There is, the 5th dimension is the hard one for us, because we are in these individuated experiences. We're in these bodies, and we feel very separate. We have an ego, and the ego is so important. It's the buy-in that allows you to be yourself. And yourself is a vessel of holy fucking divinity. It doesn't matter if you're a hot mess and your life is a mess and you feel totally dysfunctional. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. You're no less holy. You're no less worthy. You are you in your being, in your body. You are a portal, a gateway for these higher frequencies of consciousness, these higher dimensions of consciousness to reverberate and like permeate into this realm. And I'm realizing, like, you know, I shared on my podcast, there is a level where I feel like it's important for us to see and acknowledge that there is a false matrix field. It has us hooked in on meat hooks, and there are these trauma frequencies, and it's there to sort of like harness us and hold us in this density. It is important to acknowledge that, because when we truly acknowledge it, we then can like start to separate ourselves from it. And the process of separating ourselves from it is just feeling the hook, feeling the thing that you're like fucking either irrationally or totally rationally afraid of, meaning like you don't have any reason to fear travel, but you fear it. Like in this lifetime, you haven't experienced anything that should have patterned you with a fear of travel, let's say, but you experience it to the point where it's kind of, it dictates the choices you make in your life. But it can be rational. It can be like, oh yeah, I fear travel because I fucking got in like a train accident. Like I was on a train and it got derailed when I was, 13. And so I'm afraid to go anywhere. I'm afraid it encoded in me the reality that I am vulnerable. My mortality is real. And, and so I make choices in my life to avoid experiencing that again. I'm trying to not invite that experience back. It's 222 here. I'm seeing all the numbers lately. So it's just the recognition, like when we understand the false matrix field, we can understand that, oh yeah, that's a hook. That's a place that I'm hooked in. And when I am triggered, if I'm triggered from a place of unconsciousness, it sends out all this energy and it's being used to power, like that energy is being siphoned off of me, used to power this mainframe, this false matrix mainframe. And it also means that I'm hooked on, I'm not moving as a free agent in the world. I'm moving in response to the trauma hooks that I have. And so I'm, by definition and by default of that, I am living a much smaller life than I'm actually capable of living. Much smaller. So it is on one level important to recognize that, you know, recognize that narrative of the darkness and the density and the way that it keeps us trapped. But also on another level, I kind of got derailed by my own probably unnecessarily long explanation of all of that. On another level, we don't have to fix or heal anything, and we don't have to condemn ourselves. We are these holy, holy, holy beings of divinity, and we have access to these higher realms of consciousness, and we are bringing in so much light by our willingness to accept ourselves as such without requiring perfection, without requiring that we have our shit together or like everything healed first. It's just not necessary. We are in the messiness of the process of being in a physical, human, individuated incarnation. Yeah, we become portals for this higher level of consciousness. And we're the ones that get to choose whether we're going to apply it or not. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about on this live is that, like, trauma is a portal for the light. I can't remember what I actually called it, but it doesn't matter. Whatever. Trauma as a portal for the light, for higher dimensions of consciousness, for power. And what I mean by that, and maybe someday I'll record, like, I don't know, a longer, like a personal, longer illustration. But when we experience trauma and we experience darkness, density, very, very hard things, they are opportunities not only for our expansion, but they are opportunities for us to invoke and become grace and forgiveness and love. It's funny, like I can't even mention the word forgiveness without feeling like a collective resistance, because we still have a misunderstanding around forgiveness that it is the same thing as like condoning and saying, oh, it's okay that happened. But it's not. It's just, it's a releasing of the resistance around what happened. So sometimes we have to forgive ourselves and sometimes we have to forgive others. And what it really is it's actively a choice over and over and over in every moment that, like, it's a choice. It really is a choice to come back to love. I mean, at its foundation, that's what it is. So it's kind of like when you feel, I'll use my own personal example. So I had a relationship a long time ago with the father of my oldest son. And it was a very, it was definitely what people call a twin flame relationship. If you go by the definition of like the twin flame, that just sort of was like a trial by fire and like devastating heartbreak and so much drama and intensity, but it's also a mirror to yourself. So this person is very special, and we're not, you know, we're in very, very rare contact now, especially because our son is 17. But I have all kinds of love in my heart for this person, but we were very dysfunctional, very unhealthy, and I hurt him very badly, very badly. I completely changed his life in a way that has to be acknowledged. Like, I don't want to say it is in a bad way, but in a way where it's a big deal. It's a big deal that I completely, like, maybe changed the track of his life that he was on. And he also hurt me very badly. He was physically and emotionally and mentally abusive, and it was hard, and it was very painful. And he was a portal to Christ consciousness for me. I didn't experience it through the lens of Jesus or religion. I just experienced it through the lens of having to reconcile knowing him at a soul level and being able to see him at a soul level and being so in love with him, but knowing that, like, I was so in love with him that there's no way I was going to let that shit continue. But that wasn't easy, and I was very young. I was very immature. And I was very caught up in, like, the drama of codependent romance, you know? And, like, soulmate, blah, blah, blah. So when I forgive him and forgive myself, I'm not condoning the choices I made that affected him. And I'm not condoning the ways that he physically, mentally, and emotionally hurt me. I mean, we very much hurt each other. I'm not condoning the ways that we dishonored each other. I'm not condoning that at all. But what I am choosing is to not hold us there. I'm choosing to not hold us there. I'm choosing to see us in the fullness of who we are. And also, like, I've never looked into the Akashic Records. Oh my God. Right after it happened, like, I didn't even hear of Akashic Records, but I'd heard of past life regression. And I was like, I need to know, like, why did this happen? And what, like, who was he to me? And yet, like, I've never even indulged that because I love him so much that I'm like, and I love myself so much that I'm like, it is the biggest act of love to completely let it all go. I don't need to understand why it happened. I don't need to make excuses. I don't need to defend my own part in it. I don't need to, like, bypass the effect that it had on me or the effect that it had on him. I don't need to hold either of us in a place of paying for it forever. And that was a process. It was a process for me to figure that out. Like, it was easier, truthfully, for me to forgive him than it was for me to forgive myself. I forgave him more quickly, but it still was a constant process. And again, it wasn't a forgive, like, I take you back. Like, we did try that. I tried again. We tried again. And I could just see, like, no, you can't do that. That's not what forgiveness is. That is codependence. In my case, anyway. So it wasn't that kind of forgiveness. It was like every time I felt the pain and every time I felt anger, it's like I could feel the pain and feel the anger and feel the love. And the love was bigger than the pain and the anger. And all I had to do was choose that. Choose the love. Choose. So it didn't take away the pain. It didn't take away the anger. Or, like, I had PTSD for a long time. I still do. It's not so bad anymore because I think I just keep clearing out density all the time. But Alex, my current partner, if he gets in a bad mood about something, it's usually like, I don't know, like he's just having a bad day. It's not about me at all. He'll kind of like walk around and like slam cupboards and, like his anger just fills the whole house. Hasn't happened actually in like probably 18 months, which I'm really appreciating in this moment. But fuck, even though years had gone by, that would activate my PTSD hard. I would be like, I would lock myself in the bathroom and cry. And it's not because like Alex would never, it wasn't about me. He wasn't mad at me. He would never take it out on me, never take it out on the kids. That's just not how he is. But just being in the presence of male anger, trauma response. It is in my nervous system. And yet the love is bigger than that. So it's like I can have the feelings I have about it. And the love is the predominant experience, but I choose it. And at first it was hard. And then grace to me is just, it's very, very tied to forgiveness, but it's essentially like being able to see beyond that surface layer of the circumstances and know that even if you don't have the answers and your conscious mind doesn't understand all the nitty-gritty details about like the true expanded complexity and intricacy of another person or the situation, but there is an expanded complexity and that you are willing to interface with that, not just stop at the surface level that's presenting itself to you. So, and then I had to work at forgiving myself. And that was very, very hard. Very, very, very hard. And I just, again, I had to choose it over and over. And what I ultimately came down to was like, if I hold either of us in a state of like condemning us for, you know, if I were to hold him in a state of condemnation for what he had, you know, what he had done, which again wasn't really the hard part for me as much as holding myself in a state of condemnation for what I had done, I could feel like, well, that doesn't fucking do anything for anyone. Like, that doesn't make what you did better. That's not benefiting him at all. And that's keeping you in a self-imposed bondage where you don't become all that you were meant to be because you made a mistake when you were young. So it's kind of both. It's like, again, when I say that, it's not like I was just like, well, the slate is wiped clean and it doesn't matter that I had this effect on this person. It totally matters. And I don't have to be held there. I don't know if this is really making sense, but I think it probably is. And when I figured that out, and again, it was a process, like it was something I actively applied over a span of years. Just as psychic development has been something I've actively applied over a span of years. Like everything on earth is a process. It's all a process. It's a continually re-choosing it in the now moment. But what I learned through that experience with my twin flame, I hate that I even use those words, but that is what, whatever. Anyway, our souls definitely know each other. I don't think we're the same soul. It's not like that. It's like, you know, we're soulmates, but not the kind of soulmates that we're destined to live our lives together, share life together. We're soulmates that were destined to go through some fucking shit and evolve briefly and quickly, trial by fire. Anyway, through that experience, I was initiated into Christ consciousness because I could see that I could choose to stay stuck in the regret and the resentment and the anger and all those things, or I could choose to use it as a portal to bring in frequencies, high dimensional frequencies of light and love. And in so doing, it reverberates out into the world in a way that we can't really scientifically measure. So we tend to not give it the credence it deserves. But look where I am now. I'm talking to you about this now, and I'm transmitting from the nexus point of that experience I had. I'm transmitting beautiful frequencies that hopefully activate something in you that allow you to accept the beauty and the perfection and the power of your human life, including the traumas and the darkness and the things that we've done that we regret, the messiness, and to know that those things are portals for ascension, they are portals for massive collective healing, and that we are the wounded healers. We don't have to be healed in order to have this effect. We just choose to connect with the level of consciousness that is higher, higher, higher. The higher, higher, higher is never about personal power. It's about liberation and release, absolution, beauty, coming back together into the wholeness and the light source that we came from. And so in our human lives, we're so powerful. And that's like really what came through for me yesterday. That really, 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 like really transformed my perception and anchored in deeply. It's like, God, we're not trying to get out of here. Like, yes, it would be dope if enough of us disconnect from that trauma mainframe of the false matrix, that we can become truly, truly the powerful free agents that we are. And that we can enjoy the experience of being a human in this realm to the fullest extent that is available to us. And it's full. That would be dope. But we're not actually trying to escape this place. Because the separation is an illusion of perception, and it's an illusion that allows for so much expansion and growth. I mean, think about it. So I just described my trauma experience. If he and I had been in a state of wholeness, if I had been at the level of consciousness that I'm at now, there's no way we would have ever even been together, because I love him so much that I would have been able to see the situation for what it was and just be like, the greatest act of love that I can show you is to just walk away and let us both be free. So I could not have experienced the expansion and activation that I did through that experience, through those circumstances, without being at a lower level of consciousness, without being totally wrapped up in my own stories and 100% bought into my ego. Like, we have to love the human parts of ourselves that are unconscious. It's not a problem to be fixed. This is a realm of great contrast, and it's very intense. And yet it is so holy, and it's not all that we are. And there are ways to leverage, isn't the right word, but it's close. Leverage these experiences and the contrast that we live through so that we don't get stuck in it, and so that we can flood this realm with so much light, so much light. How healing is it if you know someone is being a total dick and is barking at you, and you can be with them, and you, like, you know, on the surface level, like I said, you're reacting to what they're giving you because that's where their consciousness is and that's what they need you to meet. But on the, like, in the behind the scenes, you're connecting with their heart field, and you're silently offering healing frequencies, which is, you know, you're offering them and they can accept them or not, but you're just transmitting healing frequencies of like, I see you, I feel you, you're witnessed, How healing is that? My God, we don't even need to be healers. Like we don't need to have businesses as healers. We don't need to. We can. I mean, go for it. It feels amazing. You've heard me all say before, like, I'm so glad that I did this. I'm so happy that I made this choice this was my path to start my podcast and create this community and have conversations like this and be in connection with all of you and learn what I've learned through Akashic readings and, whatever. I'm so glad I did it. And even if I had never done it, I would still be like transmitting healing frequencies that I can never truly understand how powerful I am. You can never truly understand how powerful you are. You're so fucking powerful. So powerful. We have access to all these higher dimensions of consciousness. It's not actually hard. I think that a lot of us are already there and we're just learning to stay there. And it's crazy. Like right now, yesterday was such a trip because I was mostly in the 12th dimension. And I'm used to like, accessing these higher fields and then like plummeting back down into the human experience and feeling the density all over again and being like, I'm feeling cut off and like, it's an integration period. But now, again, this all has been a process. It all is like a practice. Now I'm like, whoa, I'm currently in the 12th dimensional field and I'm down in my body and I'm grounded and I'm living a human life both at the same time. I can toggle back and forth in any given moment. I think this is what, when I got those instructions, I don't know if you remember, but I was trying to talk about it back in March. Like, it's time to go. It's time to go. I was getting these instructions. It's time to go. It's time to go. We have to like figure out how to carve the path and build the bridge to those higher dimensions of consciousness and be like still have access. Like we're not leaving the third dimension. I think it's the fourth dimension, but whatever. We're not leaving this place. We are opening the gateway to be in both at the same time. And it requires a lot of dexterity, and that dexterity is cultivated moment by moment every single day in subtle fields of personal free will and choice, and like expanding our consciousness, allowing ourselves to be activated, believing, perceiving reality on subtler and subtler levels, which I'm going to wrap this up momentarily, but I just wanted to say too, like, I am totally tripping out right now. Like, not tripping out on drugs, tripping out just on my increasing awareness of the pixelation of this whole place and like dialing into the pixelation and like moving it. And the power of those subtle fields of reality and those subtle changes, like almost like, I was talking about conjuring up balls of light on my podcast. And so I practice this every morning. Conjure up a ball of, I don't see it as physical light, but I'm also doing it with my eyes closed. But it's energy that I can feel it when I move my hands around. Like I can feel this ball in between my hands. And then I like send it out into the field. And I'm already seeing things coming back that are confirming. And at the beginning, they're like small, subtle things. Not so subtle that they're imaginary. Like it's actual, like somebody that I've been wanting to collaborate with, just, that I don't have any connection to. We don't have any like mutual acquaintances messaging me and like saying, do you want to be on my podcast? Like things like that, right? Where basically what I'm saying is like, woof, there are these, when you can dial into the fabric of reality, man, you can create some shit and it's not even hard. It's really, really cool. And I believe that that's what we're stepping into. These are abilities that we have. And when we can accept this level of power about ourselves and we can really just, yeah, it feels to me like dialing into the, I'm trying to think of the right word. Like I was going to say granular level, but it's even lighter. It's even subtler, finer than granular. Like going all the way down into like the energetic fabric. From there, you just encode the things that you want, and they happen. We're very, 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 very powerful. And that is the genesis point of the superpowers that I'm talking about. But also the superpowers are generated from within us. So anyway, okay, I'm going to let you all go. I have to go get my daughter soon. But thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening. Hopefully this was a little bit more coherent than yesterday's live. But I also recommend yesterday's live if you want to see an example of what it's like to be mostly in the 12th dimensional field while being a human. And also if you want to receive some light language activations, then I do recommend it. And just a reminder that the answer is open for you to learn about your sorcery, about your powers. It's like, yeah, it's connecting to your superpowers, your mission, like how to develop them, how to wield them, connected to your galactic identity, and or your angelic identity. Did I say that right? Angelic identity? Yeah, I think I did. Your spirit guide team, like your network, like the beings that are around you and in communication and support of you, your higher self, your archetypes, finding out the field that you channel from, learning how to channel, learning how to be a steward and a guardian of portals and stargates, and do that work, how to essentially step into, activate, and embody all of the powers that we actually have that we've been so separated from, because they are ours, but we have to choose them. We have to choose them, and it is a process to bring them in. Anyway, so it is enrolling. You probably already know about it because I've been posting about it a lot, but if it speaks to you, I would absolutely love to have you. Like, it would be the height of thrilling excitement for me to connect with you and help you step into this, because it's a fucking phenomenal place to be, and we're only just getting started. So if you're ready to answer the call that humanity put out, that Gaia put out, then message me and let me know. Otherwise, I love you all so much, and I just want to leave you with the knowing that you are absolutely perfect and powerful in all of your messiness and all of your human flaws, and that you really don't need anything more than that, is the knowing of that you are perfect and complete exactly as you are, so holy, so divine, and a vehicle for profound healing and light on this planet /plane/realm. Okay, I love you all. Bye, everyone.